I'm dermatologist Usoko, and I will interview Dr. Ross today on behalf of Medical Aesthetic Online Journal. I was a research fellow at Wellman Laboratory in late 90s, so I can say that I'm a junior to you. Although we met several times at ASLM's meeting, and you told me that you visited here a long time ago when you were in Navy.
Yes.
But would you tell us the purpose of your visit to Korea this time?
Yes, so my purpose of the visit this time was primarily to discuss some new therapies with exosomes and also a somewhat new microneedling radiofrequency device. So those are the main reasons to be here and to do this interview.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And also, I know that you are a key doctor of Laser Optech company. So what made you decide to become a global key doctor for Laser Optech?
Well, actually, I was approached by a gentleman, Mr. Dalton, who is in the United States, and I think he had referred himself to me through a mutual friend who's a cosmetic dermatologist in Washington State named Phil Werschler. So I think that was where the connection came from.
Okay. And how did you learn about PicoLO Premium, and how long have you been using the PicoLO Premium?
Yeah, I learned really about the PicoLO Premium from Mr. Dalton. That was the primary reason I found out about it. And then I investigated the portfolio of the company and saw that they had been around and had some seemingly good products online. And then I was able to use the device now for roughly a year, I think, just less than a year.
How would you rate PicoLO Premium in general, and what do you think set PicoLO Premium apart from other PicoLO laser systems?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I have another picosecond system, which is the Pico 4, which is similar in many regards, and I have the old MedLite system, which is a nanosecond system. But I think the primary differentiator with the PicoLO Premium is the number of optical choices, the handpiece choices. You have multiple handpieces, and the interface is very nice, and it's been very reliable. But I think the number one reason I like it is the spot profile for the 532 nanometer wavelength with the zoom optic.
So PicoLO Premium has a variety of handpieces. So what handpieces do you use the most, and how do you use them?
Yes. Well, I'll be frank. The handpiece I use the most is the zoom optic, and that's probably 95% of what I do. And the reason is because it works. I'll just be frank, we had a laser which is a Q-switch alexandrite laser, which has always been my go-to laser for particularly Asian patients with lentigines, with pigment disorders, and I've never been happy with 532 in general because I see more PIH. So I said, well, the laser was broken for a long time, our alexandrite laser, probably for 3 months. So I took the PicoLO Premium and put it in a primary parking spot. You know, my clinic, you kind of, it's like a speed dial on a phone. You get a different ranking, and I put the PicoLO Premium in center court, so to speak, like in Wimbledon. It was in the main place, and then I used it every day because it was in that primary parking spot. And what I was seeing was that when I used the 532 nanometer wavelength, I was getting very nice results, and I wasn't getting a lot of petechiae, which I was getting with my old MedLite laser.
What do you think about company Laser Optech while working together?
Well, I think we're working together. I mean, I'll be frank, mainly because Mr. Dalton introduced me to the laser, but I believe the main reason to work together is because I found a laser here that I think can satisfy my 532, 1064 nanometer picosecond needs, which frankly, the other laser I have, although it's okay, I think that laser makes a lot of concessions in design because the other company bought the laser from another company, so they could have took a laser off the shelf, whereas Laser Optech built this laser, and I think they built it the way they wanted it. So I think it's a more easy to use laser.
So what will it take for Laser Optech to become a more prominent global laser company?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think historically, you know, and I've done this 28 years, so I guess that's a long time now, and I've watched companies kind of come and go. And I think the challenge, particularly for a non-US company, to make an impact in America, sort of like cars is the same thing, is you have to have a critical mass of devices so that other people talk to other people and like it. So I think Laser Optech has a good product line. The challenge is going to be to break through and like a seed, spread the word and spread the knowledge about the quality and the reliability and the efficacy, and then they can be successful. I'm not a business guy.
Yeah.
I don't know the business side, but the first step is to have a quality laser. I think that step has been achieved. The other part, that's more for the MBAs and all the other people to decide.
Okay. Korean dermatologists usually are well known to try new attempts creatively using devices. Could you share your thoughts if you have any experience meeting Korean doctors?
Well, I have met Korean doctors, yes. But
So-
what was your specific question?
Usually Korean dermatologists are well known to try new
Oh, yes, yes.
attempts and new indications and widening indications. So what do you think about the Korean doctors when you meet Korean other doctors?
Yes. Just getting away from this particular device, I think in my history of meeting Korean doctors, they're very forward-thinking, trying to find out the best way to go from A to B in a very creative but scientific way, which I like. I mean, some of the best articles that I've read in the last 20 years are all Korean articles, particularly looking at ways to treat challenging conditions. I'll just name one condition, syringomas. I don't think any other nation has spent more time, money, or studies looking at syringomas. And that's just a good example of using different types of needles and lasers. And that's just one example. Melasma is another example. So if you look at the amount of science coming out of Korea, per unit person, it's got to be greater than probably any other country in dermatology.
I know that you are collaborating with other Korean and American companies besides Laser Optech. What do you think are the differences between US-based global laser companies and Korean companies? And also, how has the concept and evaluation of Korean laser companies changed in the United States?
Yeah, I mean, I think the company that has made at least some inroads, and this is just from my experience in just going to the exhibitor booths at the American shows, is Lutronic. They've been able to have a footprint here, and I think they're successful. One of the, maybe it's not a myth, but maybe a misunderstanding, a lot of the other companies that are American are kind of American, but like Luminous, for example, is very Israeli, so it's an American company, but there's a heavy Israeli presence in the design and things, and some of the other companies have a similar sort of international flavor. But the companies that are 100% sort of homegrown American, I think the advantage they have over, say, a Korean company is they have headquarters in America, and maybe they are more familiar with the nuances of sales and how the American dermatologist or non-dermatologist thinks about laser purchases. But I think any Korean company can do that. They just have to have a liaison, somebody who understands both markets and both ways of thinking to be successful. I mean, you've done it with cars. Look at Hyundai and Kia. I mean, you can do it with lasers. It's probably the same model. It just has to be kind of transformed from a car model to a laser model.
And BTS, Korean K-pop star.
Yes,
like
exactly.
BTS.
Yes.
After COVID pandemic, the aesthetic market is changing in many ways. So what do you expect trends in global aesthetic market after COVID pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, COVID stored up all these patients who were unable to have procedures, and I think now we have sort of a lot of patients wanting cosmetic procedures. But I think one of the things that happened, I don't do a lot of body contouring other than cool sculpting, but my colleagues do a lot more liposuction and other body contouring. Say that a lot of people gain weight during COVID, and they're very sensitive now to be getting the weight off. So maybe body contouring is going to get even bigger. But most of the other things are, I guess what's a little disappointing in the laser industry is that it's not the lasers, is that we try to treat things that are hard to treat, and we don't get a lot better, whether it's melasma or maybe whether it's some other conditions like acne, for example. That's kind of a focus now. I think we might see some real excitement with acne, but there are a lot of unmet needs, and I think we'll see continued improvement in some of those types of technologies. And also devices that actually robotically find a target. So you would have a device where a scanner would find a blood vessel, and then the laser would only hit the blood vessel based on observing the skin. So we have a lot of progress to be made to make these lasers more, I guess, smart. And I think that's part of the future.
Oh, that sounds great. If we can use a device which can detect vessels specifically and targeting vessel only automatically.
Or pigment.
Pigment, or pigment also.
Well, what's interesting is, and it's kind of sad in a way, in some ways, is that back in 1994 when I was in the lab, there was a company called General Scanning, and they were working with rabbit ear vessels to have it was like a drone. It would go over, find the vessel, and the laser would, and it would find the ear vessel. And now, 28 years later, it's still not commercialized, though, right? I mean, so a lot of things are great ideas, but they haven't been transformed into the bedside. And part of that's probably a lack of money or a lack of know-how. And another example is imaging. I would have thought in 1994 that we would be able to do a true optical biopsy. So you would probably take your punch biopsy and you would put it in a corner. You would only use it in a case of emergency. And usually we just have either optical coherence tomography or scanning microscopy, but we haven't taken those technologies and moved them truly to the bedside. And so those are exciting opportunities, but I'm disappointed that they're not there yet.
I hope in the near future we can get those devices with your help.
Yes, yes.
To my knowledge, you are working on many new devices, except Korean or US-based. Many new devices, like 1726 nanometer lasers or cell FX. You gave lectures many times about those brand new devices, and you are involved in developing that kind of devices. So would you tell us that your experience developing new devices like that?
Yes. So I mean, developing a new device, oftentimes the device is already sort of developed by the time I get to it. So in a sense, I'm sort of like a test driver for a car. They've kind of already had the car built, and I give some feedback and things like that. So that's been my experience. In Rox Anderson's lab, it's a little different because they're taking ideas that are really at the very, very concept phase, and then taking years and years to go to commercialization. Whereas most of the things I'm involved in, the company has an idea of what they want to do, and we just sort of finesse that idea, which is sometimes not as gratifying because you're kind of stuck with what you have, right? You have this device or a concept, and frankly, sometimes I don't think it's going to work, and sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it does. Acne is a good example. So acne is something that I've been interested in for a long time with lasers, and Cutera has a commercially available laser now, and there may be another company I work with called Acura that hopefully will have one. But it still hasn't really made headway as far as the general dermatologist, I think, going to the clinic, and they go, oh, we don't need a drug, we don't need isotretinoin, we don't need any of this, we're just going to put you under the laser. And I think that could happen, but we're a long way from that right now.
You are world famous dermatologist, and many Korean doctors respect you also. Is there anything you would like to say to Korean doctors?
Well,
it's my last
I'd like to
question.
say thank you, because I really appreciate Korea, because I like the idea of mixing the science and the creativity and the know-how, because those are the three parts really to success. And I found my Korean colleagues to be very honest, forthright, and they seem to have a good idea of what they want to do. It doesn't always work, but that's true for everything. But I like the enthusiasm and the creativity, which I think really, per person is unmatched. I wish we had the same kind of discipline in the United States for some of these projects. So I would say thank you to my Korean colleagues.
Thank you, Dr. Ross, for the interview today, and we will finish your interview today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you.